I'm Camille on William Street, and we are here to help you become a more confident quilter, from piecing to quilting and everything in between. So I'm so glad you're back with us today. We are now working on month 3 of our annual quilt along. All right, so for this quilt along, we are doing our quilt as you go. So we're not necessarily making different blocks every month. We have one block that we've made. So if you are new here, you can go get the instructions in our introductory blog post. I'll make sure that that's linked. And then we are going to go ahead and we are quilting it different every month. So I'm helping you learn and practice a whole bunch of different quilting motifs. And then after the blocks are quilted, we will combine them all together. So you're not trying to quilt a great big quilt on your machine. I'm going to show you one method that you can use to put those blocks together after they are quilted to kind of make things a little bit easier. So, like I said, all the information is on the blog. So I've got the diagrams, the quilting plans, what block we're quilting, all the information, links to the other blocks, links to the introductory block that has the instructions on how to put it together. All that information is on the blog. So don't forget to head over there and check that out. Also, while you're there, you can check out our shop and find your next modern quilting project. Okay. All right, so the quilt that we're doing now, we are in month 3. So we're going to be doing the top right quilt. Ours is going to be a block. The top right block. Ours is our orange block, but if you go to the blog post, you'll see them listed, the months that we're going to do it. And the reason we're doing them in a specific order is because when we trim the blocks, the outside blocks need to be trimmed a little bit different than the inside ones to make sure that we have enough room for the border. We're going to put a little bit of a border on this to match the sashing that it hooks the blocks together. So those outside blocks just need a little bit of extra care. So we want to make sure that we're quilting them in order so that here in a couple weeks, you can come back and we will post the instructions on how to put your first 3 blocks together. All right, so let's go ahead and I'm going to show you our quilting plan and what motif we are working on today, and we will then get started. So this is this month's quilting plan. As you can see, we are going to be doing what we call figure 8s. And then a bunch of straight lines. So this one is going to be pretty easy. We're going to do some of our future blocks after we've learned some of these basic motifs. We'll start kind of combining them together a little bit more. But for now, we're going to do some more straight lines and some figure 8s here. So we're going to start again in the middle. And because I want to do a little bit of marking on this one, I'm going to walk you through the whole quilting plan, show you how to mark it, and then we'll go ahead and quilt it out. So we're going to start here in the middle, and we're going to do the little figure 8s. And these, you just want to think you're going away, coming back, away, coming back, away, coming back. And that's kind of how I tell myself as I'm quilting these. Always make sure you go away first and then loop back as you go across. And you can see I'm doing something a little bit different. This time I'm treating this whole center block as one diamond. I'm not going to quilt the individual sections. We're just going to quilt it all as one diamond. Then we're going to move out to our straight lines. And you'll see here that I have lines drawn from the corners. And this is simply to make it easy to move. Otherwise, we're making, stopping, tying off, coming out and quilting. And I really don't like to tie off if I can avoid it. So I'm going to cut to the end here. And I'm actually going to go ahead and go out to this corner and then back. Then I'm going to go up to this side, go down to the corner and do my straight line and then come back. Go down here, do the straight line, come back, finish, and then from here, after this, and then back over here. Then we'll come out. Our lines are done now, so we don't need to worry about that at this point. And then just go out and do our outer loop. And we'll kind of see how it fits, but I just plan to put a couple of them in here, but I'm actually going to do, outline the center block first, and then come out and do these, and then we're going to outline this outer block as well. So there's going to be 4 loops when we're all done. Then from here, it's going to be easy. We're just going to follow along one of these sides, and then we're going to quilt these the same way we did it last month. We're just going to start on the outside, quilt our figure 8s into the center, quilt it out, travel along the edge, quilt them in, quilt them out, and then travel all the way around the quilt. So that's going to take care of all of this center star. Now we're going to go ahead, now that we've finished up all of the star, we're ready to go ahead and just do our corner units, and then we will be all done. So now that we've ended here, we're going to be on an outside point. I'm just going to travel down along the side of the triangle,
so that I can do these lines first. So on this one, I'll show you a little bit better as we quilt it, but I'm gonna actually do just on the inside. I'm not gonna stitch in the ditch so that you see that quilting a little bit better. Then we're gonna come along here and then just connect, like I said, from where this seam hits and where that seam hits, draw a straight line right down the middle, come out, and then again on this one, you're gonna draw your line just on the inside of that seam so that you see it. Quilt your line. Then we'll come along the edge here, and I'm going to put this line in, and I'm gonna stop. Then I'm gonna do my figure eights back and forth here, and then go ahead and finish on out. And don't worry, we'll come back in and catch that a little bit later. So then we'll come back along, and I'm just gonna start on the outside, down and over, along, trace along your line, down and over, back on top, down. And this one I'm gonna do the same thing, just on the side of the seam so that I'm not losing that stitch line in the ditch. Along this way, back in, do the little inside one. And then, because I haven't stitched this yet, I'm just gonna back up, grab that, and then stitch my way on out. From there, we're going to follow along the edge to get to our next corner. And then we'll just repeat down along the side of the big triangle and grab these 3 lines first, then out to the side, over here, do your figure eights across the triangle, back out, then down, and put in all of our straight lines. Come back, grab that section, shoot on out, and then move on to the next corner, and then just repeat the same method all the way around to finish those last couple corners.
So when I'm marking this, I'm just going to be using my butter knife and a ruler, and I'm just going to use the back end of the butter knife like we did last month. So I'm just going to go in, and I'm just going to roughly, estimate about 2 lines. I want 2 sets of lines in here, and I'm just pressing the butter knife and creating a crease there. And if you decide you want to do a little bit more, you could do 3 lines in there. Feel free to make this your own. Then after I've marked these, we do 1 more set. Then the other thing I want to mark, I'm not going to worry about these ones because I'm just going to stitch from this seam to that seam, is just these outer ones. So I'm going to be doing the seam from here, and I'm just going to add it in so that I can see where I need to mark to. And then I'm just going to go in, and I want to do 1 right on the edge here, so I don't need to worry about marking that one, 1 inside here, and then I'm just going to do 2. So basically just space them about the same distance as you had those inner ones. And that should get all of them in there. Like I said, I'm just eyeballing it. I'm not super worried about them being exact. I think an eyeball is close enough. If you prefer more exact, you can definitely, measure that out and put those in there. So now I've got that corner marked, and I'm just going to repeat and mark the other 3 corners as well. Also, while we're here, remember when you put your quilt block on the backing to try to keep it centered. I just folded mine in half on the diagonal so I can line it up on the center sections so that we have about the same amount of extra around the outside so that we don't have one side that's too small for what we need to do when we join them later. All right, now that I've got my lines in the center marked and my lines in the corners marked, we can go ahead and actually start quilting. So we're going to go ahead and I'm just going to put my needle here on one of these corners for the center block first. All right, so what I've done is I've gone ahead, I'm going to start in that corner there, and I've just pulled up my bottom thread, and I like to start with my needle down so I know it's not going to move. And we're going to start with those figure eights. And like I said, when you're thinking about the figure eights, you're just going to go away and then loop back, and then away and loop back. And then we're just going to start small and then just grow them to fit into the diamond and then get small again on the other side. I'm going to stop here for a second, and if I ever have to stop when I'm doing something curved, I definitely try to stop on an edge. It makes it much, much easier.
So and the reason I'm stopping is so that I can pull those threads out of the way, so now I don't have to worry about accidentally sewing over them and making that more complicated later. Now that they're out of the way, I can go ahead and just finish stitching. And now I've stopped on that opposite corner. And if you notice, you may have noticed, I started with all of my bulk towards inside the throat of my machine. That way, as I was quilting, I was moving it away as opposed to trying to push more bulk into the machine. And that's actually how I try to quilt the big quilts as well. It makes it a little bit easier in my mind to have the bulk moving out as opposed to bulk moving in. So now that we're here, we're gonna go ahead and I'm just gonna stitch from this corner to this corner in preparation to do these center lines. And again, I'm just gonna eyeball it. I'm not gonna worry about a ruler, but I'm just gonna make sure that I'm either going back and forth horizontally or vertically, not trying to do it on a diagonal. So I can just go in one nice straight line. So now that I've gone out, I'm gonna go ahead and just move back in. I'm actually gonna go ahead and do around the diamond first. So I'm gonna go ahead and stitch and add in all of my lines. And I just tried to stay in the ditch there as much as possible. And then I'm going to go ahead and do the in and out on the next line. All right, and then I'm going to keep going around. And remember, try to improve, try to do better, but don't be too hard on yourself. No one else is going to inspect your stitches like you see them. So just have fun, relax, and have fun with it. Okay, so now I'm back to the beginning, so I don't need to do another line. I'm just going to go out a little bit and get to my first mark. And then now all I have to do is go around in a circle. I don't need to worry about going in and out on these. Now that I'm back to the start, I'm just going to go out to the next set of lines. And now make one more square. If you do need to move your hands as we do these bigger squares, stop completely before you try to move your hand, otherwise you might get some little wobbles in it. Now that we're finished, I'm going to move out to the outside of this square. And from here, again, just stitch in the ditch all the way around that outer diamond. So if you notice, my thread got kind of jammed up and I had to cut it. I don't know what happened, but what I'm going to go ahead and do now is I'm actually going to go ahead and I'm trying to unstitch some stitches. This would be much easier if it wasn't in the ditch. That's probably the worst place to have this happen, because those threads get stuck down in there really easily, which is good, which is why we're sewing there, right? But what I want to do, I'm going to go from the back. I think I might have more luck. Is I want to unpick a few threads, a few stitches back so that I can tie a knot, and then I'm just going to bury it. So make sure that you're going back far enough. Let's see if I can get this. And I am using a pin because it's a little bit easier to get in there. And I'm trying to disturb the thread the least amount possible, but it's not terribly cooperating with me. So we'll just go with it. Pull it through. Hopefully you can kind of see what I'm doing in case you have this problem and you're not really sure how to deal with that. I wanted to make sure and show you since how it's something that we need to address here. When I bury these threads, I really like the ones that have the open back. I will link them this week. It's probably a good place to do it, the kind that I use. It makes it a lot easier to tie your knots and bury your threads, and you're not trying to get them through a closed eye. So that's probably enough. And now we can go ahead and just stitch, and I'm just going to leave it on the back here, and I'll just bury it from the back. I'm not going to worry about trying to pull it through to the front, and I will take care of that afterwards. Now, before I start sewing, I'm going to just do the same thing as if I was just starting over. I'm just going to go down, grab my bottom thread, and pull it up to the top. And then keep quilting, and I'll just bury this when I bury all my other threads at the end. So now I am finished with that outer triangle, and I'm ready to move out to my triangles here. And those are I'm going to put the ribbon, the figure eights in, but I wanted to start on this outside edge. So I'm just going to go stitch in the ditch, stitch in the ditch out to that outside edge. And now this is going to allow me to just go from triangle to triangle all the way around the quilt. So from here, I'm in position to go ahead and just do this one out. Now from here, remember when we're traveling along the edge, just try to keep it about 1/8 of an inch or closer to the edge, so that we don't have to worry about it showing underneath of our stitching, our border, sashing. If you find that it's hard to sew this close to the edge, I'm gonna go ahead, I'm actually gonna put my finger on the back and I'm gonna pull it a little bit tight as I go, and that's gonna help it from pushing underneath the needle so bad. All right, and then from here, I'm ready to go ahead and do my next set of triangles. Okay, now that we are done with those triangles, we are ready to go ahead and work on our corner unit. So I'm gonna just go backwards to this one. So first thing I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna go down along the side so we can get the straight lines in those little bars that kind of connect the triangles. So the first one I'm gonna do just barely on the inside, so not quite in the ditch, so that it looks more like a quilting line. And then this middle one, I'm just gonna go from this seam here down to the other seam, and then this outside one again, just barely on the inside of that seam. And from here, I'm gonna come out to the side and then use the seam up here that we marked to get back to that little triangle. So now from here, I'm ready to do one more set of figure eights. And just a reminder, if you're really having trouble getting those curves smooth, I recommend speeding up a little bit. Make your stitches a little smaller. If you think about if you had a bunch of sticks, if you were trying to make smooth curves with big long sticks, it's going to be a lot harder than if you went and got a bunch of little tiny sticks. So that's how we think about this. If you have a bunch of littler stitches, it's going to make those smooths a little bit easier to do. So now I'm going to go ahead and go out to this outer line and finish off that line. All right, now I'm gonna go ahead, I'm just gonna go back into the outside triangle, square, whatever you wanna call it. So now I'm just gonna go straight out and do the outside one first. from here, I'm going to work my way into the next one. So the third one I'm actually going to do just on top of that seam. And this is where I mentioned I'm just going to go ahead because I just got this one little section that won't be quilted. If I don't, I'm going to go backwards and grab that and then follow my way out to the corner. And then from here, I'm ready to go over to the next corner. I'm just going to do the same thing, follow along the edge of the block. And now our block 3 is done. So if you have any questions on like how to do the motifs, go back. You can rewatch them over and over. I will wait patiently while you do that, so don't ever feel bad about hitting pause and rewinding. Also, if you have any specific questions, let me know. One other request that we kind of have is for those who don't want to really do a lot of free motion but still want to do the quilt as you go, if I would have maybe a couple straight line designs, things you could do with your walking foot. So I'm gonna actually go ahead and add just a couple of those into our blog post this month. I'm probably not gonna do a new design for every month. That's a lot when I'm already doing a free motion quilting one for every month, but I'm gonna go ahead and put a few different motifs down there, designs down there, so that if you want to just use like your walking foot or your regular sewing machine to get them quilted and then sew and join them together with us, you have that option as well. So check out the blog post for those. Otherwise, make sure you check out our shop and see what new projects we have going on. Find your next modern quilting pattern while you work on in between the blocks. And you can find us on Facebook and Instagram as well. And we'll see you next time.